Hello. Hi, tribe. All right, so it's Tuesday, and for some reason I've just decided Tuesdays work better for me for videos, so I hope they're working for you guys. Today, as the title indicates, we're going to talk about whole foods, and I don't mean Whole Foods, the store where you buy groceries. I mean eating whole or real foods. So we have up to this point talked about several kinds of eating. One of them that we've spent probably the most time on so far is macronutrients. So that's where you've got someone who's aiming for a certain amount of calories, protein, fats, and carbs, and they're really tracking, they're really zoning in on these things. And I know that's not for everyone. I know that it's an incredibly powerful and accurate way to change your body composition and to actually take control of it, but I also know it's not for everyone. So what I'm going to talk about today is I guess it's a slightly different way of eating, but it's based more on real food. It's based more on intuitive eating, and it's just based more on not necessarily changing your body composition, but giving your body nutrient-dense foods that are easy to identify, that are healthy and good for you, and basically came from this earth. So if you're not yet ready to start tracking all your macronutrients, if you're not yet ready to start diving into that whole realm, I get it. It's like I said, it's not easy and it's not for everyone to do. But if you can start at least gearing your mind towards eating real food, otherwise known as whole foods, then you can also make some drastic changes in a positive way for your health and your body. Now, when I refer to Hi, Katie. When I refer to whole foods, just please remember through this whole thing, I'm not talking about the store. I'm actually talking about food, legitimate food that you're going to be eating. So if you think about all the convenience foods that we have now, you know, there once was a time, maybe it was your grandma, maybe it was your great-grandma, but somebody actually, if they were going to make bread, they had to get all the ingredients, put them together, knead it, let it rise, knead it, let it rise, bake it, slice it. It was fresh, it was made. If they were going to make an apple pie, they had to make the crust, they had to chop the apples, they had to actually put things together. Well, specifically as women became more and more part of the workforce, we were struggling to do all of these fabulous things and take care of our family. So domestic goddess material, exactly. We were struggling to take care of our families and work. So all these convenience foods started coming out. And the thought of it is really awesome. So if you are this mom and you're working a bunch, but you still want to have really delicious, fresh baked bread for your family, you know, you could do that now. Well, as the food industry grew, as the workforce grew, as our desire as a group of people, as a race, wanting to have convenient foods grew and grew and grew, it became very much a monetary conglomerate. I mean, it's huge. If you look at the food industry, it's huge. Everything from prepackaged food to restaurants. I mean, it's everywhere. There is one thing that every single human has to have, and it is food. Well, and water. Food and water. They've even figured out a way to make us pay for water. So think about that. So the food industry has grown and grown and grown, and because it is a business, it's not always meant to be the healthiest thing for you. So just because somebody is marketing something that's healthy doesn't really make it totally healthy. It just means that they know if they put that on the box, more people will buy it. So you got to really start to pay attention when you start to think whole foods and real foods. And it's almost kind of hard sometimes for people to wrap their minds around the difference between food and food-like products. Especially, so I'm 42, and from as far back as I can remember, cereal came out of a box, dinners could be put in the microwave, you could, as a treat, go through a drive-through, you know, like that was, you know, I am still old enough though that I also remember having a garden, canning tomatoes, freezing corn, my grandparents have cattle, so I grew up in a time where convenience food was definitely part of our day-to-day life, but I also knew where food came from. So fast forward to now, people who are growing up, they're surrounded by way fewer gardens, way fewer realities of where food comes. And most people think chicken comes from Kroger. Most people think that ice cream comes from Kroger. So first of all, wrap your head around this. I'm going to be talking about real food, not food-like products. And if in your mind you're thinking, well, I wonder if so-and-so counts as a food. We'll get to that, but I can guarantee you if you have to question yourself, it probably isn't a food. It's probably a food-like item. So what I want to focus on is some ways to help you transition from convenience or processed foods to eating more whole foods. Would it be awesome if today at noon you just stopped eating all processed foods? Yeah, it would. But it's a big lifestyle change, especially if you are a busy mother or if you are you're full-time in the workforce. And honestly, too, sometimes I think it's really hard if you're a single individual living in an apartment. It's tricky when you live by yourself. Maybe you're a college student and you don't really need to cook for a bunch of people. You don't really feel like cooking. So I think it's hard for people all around, but let's talk about different ways that we can start to educate ourselves and ways that we can start to make better choices regarding whole foods. So there are different challenges out there that you can find on the interwebs. The Whole30 is the first one that comes to mind. And I know I'll talk a little bit more about that before I finish off here today. But those are things where you kind of dive in and you go cold turkey. And I'm all for that. I'm an all or nothing kind of person, so I'm all for that. But I again know that that's not for everyone. So what I want to do is just basically kind of educate you a little bit on how to make better choices, how to transition into this, give you a reason as to why it's important to do this, and then we'll kind of go from there. So based on the comments and the feedback I get from this particular video, we can shoot off into more detail if it's something you guys want to do. So I have notes so that I don't get off on tangents. So what we're going to talk about basically is nutrition or nutrients versus ingredients / fillers. So when you are starting to want to eat whole foods, obviously a banana is a whole food. Obviously a head of lettuce is a whole food. Obviously a chicken breast is a whole food. But you're going to come to a point in time too where you're looking for things that maybe they do come in a jar or they do come in a box or they do, so it doesn't necessarily mean right away that it's not okay for you. What you need to start doing is as soon as you pick up an item at the store, first of all, if it has a label on it, it's probably a food item, which means it's going to be either a mixture of chemicals and ingredients to replicate food, or it's going to be a mixture of foods to make a certain kind of food. So, case in point, think of salsa. There's the salsa you can buy that's in the jar that has some, that's going to last for 3 years on your shelf. Or there's the salsa you can buy in the little plastic containers that when you read it, it's tomatoes, peppers, onions, cilantro, it's spices. It's just salsa. It's not going to last for 3 years. You're going to have to open it and use it and move on. So obviously one is going to be better than the other. So what I want to teach you to do is to read your labels. And up to this point, when we've talked about food labels, we've really talked about the nutritional side of the food label, where it breaks down the calories, the proteins, the fats, and the carbs. When I'm referring to a person who is basically not ready for that or kind of ignoring that and they're just thinking whole foods, you're going to go straight to the bottom of that label. You're going to look where it says ingredients. Now, there's a couple things you can ask yourself. How long is this list? If there's like 3 to 5 things, it might be okay. Some of those lists are huge. They're like the size of the whole bottle. Pretty much, a good rule of thumb is the bigger the list, the farther away you should stay from it. When you're looking at the list, can you pronounce what's in it? Do you recognize what's in it? It may say apple, cinnamon, and then 6 other words that you've never heard of and you don't know what they are and you'd have to Google them to even figure it out. Or it might say apples and cinnamon, right? So you see the difference there. So, yes, maybe it's coming in a package, maybe it's been processed somewhat, but it's still going to be the better choice for you than, say, a granola bar that's packed full of, whatever. So another rule or guideline that a lot of people, when they're trying to eat whole foods, and you've probably heard this a lot, but it's shop the perimeter of the store. So, why is that? Well, first of all, stores are catching on to this. So it's not always totally true anymore. But it used to be the average grocery store was laid out that all around the perimeter you would find the produce, the meat counter, the fish counter, the dairy, the eggs type section. And then in the middle is where you would find the aisles and the rows of all the cans and boxes and things that could last forever. So, you know, yeah, Kroger's and the big minds that are behind food, they're figuring this out. So now when you're even shopping in the produce section, if you start looking, you'll start seeing some things that are non-produce. They're not actually produce, but they're produce related, but they're not actually fresh anymore. So you still have to be aware of it. Just because it's in the health section doesn't mean it's healthy. Flip it over, read it, see what the ingredient label is. But typically, yeah, if you hang out on the perimeter, if you dive into that produce section, if you dive into the meat counter, if you dive into those areas where most of the food has come in and it's either just there in the bucket in its state, the way it comes, for example, apples, oranges, they're just there. They're right there for you. Or maybe you're at the meat counter and it's chicken or it's a steak and it's just wrapped in plastic and it's just there, versus the really pretty shiny box in the middle of the store that has, I don't know, some glossy graphic on it and you're not even sure what's in the box. You know, there's a picture, but you're not even sure what's in the box. You have to flip it over and figure it out. So shopping the perimeter will help you tremendously. That's not to say that you're not going to find some, like, you know, iced tea bags, or hot tea bags. They're going to be in a box in the aisle. They're still just dried up leaves wrapped in mesh. You know what I'm saying? So you're still going to come across that stuff, but if you spend the majority of your time in the perimeter, you're going to do better. And another one that I know you hear a lot, and it's totally cliche, but it is totally true, it is shop the rainbow. What does that mean? You know, shop the rainbow, eat the rainbow. What does that mean? Well, basically it's dealing with the produce section. So when you get in there, and I know I'm guilty of it too, like we love red peppers and a lot of stuff. We love spinach, you know, wilted or in a salad. There's like certain things that we just always buy. But what you really want to try to focus, especially if this is going to be new to you, is start thinking. Think of the actual rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. So try to make a little game out of it if you want. Make it a game that every time you go to the grocery store, you leave with one thing of every color. So I'm going to cheat, but red peppers because we like them a lot. Orange, carrots. Yellow, squash. Green, wow, green is like a million things in the produce section, so take your pick. Blue, blueberries. Purple, eggplant. You know, just kind of play that game and try new things. Like, you know, maybe eggplant's not something that you eat a lot, which is funny because eggplant's only purple on the outside. You know, when you slice it, don't be alarmed, it's not purple on the inside. But try something new. Hop on Pinterest, you know, Google eggplant recipes and see if there's different things that you can come up with that you've never tried before with these new things. You may love them, you may hate them, but then you'll know, right? You're going to at least know. And when you first start transitioning from less processed food into more real food, you may notice right away that something, it may taste a bit more bland to you than what you're used to, because if you're used to eating things out of a box or like a microwave dinner, or even if you're used to eating out at restaurants a lot, there's a lot of sodium and sugar that gets added to food that is prepackaged because it has a better shelf life that way. So if your palate is used to lots of sodium and lots of sugar, it's going to take you a little bit in the beginning to kind of adjust. Oh, I'm getting a phone call, sorry. It's going to take you a little bit in the beginning to adjust your taste buds to this new food realm that you're in. But hang in there. And honestly, I see a lot of people sometimes too when they're cooking at home, they're like, oh, I don't use any salt because salt is so bad. If you're going from processed foods to eating at home, you can throw some salt on your food. It's still going to be way less than what you were getting else, you know, out there. And yes, there's pink Himalayan salt's obviously better for you than the average table salt. But again, you guys, one step at a time. Don't be perfect overnight. Just start experimenting with real food, bringing it home and actually cooking it. So that, you know, eating the rainbow, trying something new. Now, here's the thing. There are so many times where you go to the grocery and you have the best of intentions and you buy all of these ingredients and you're going to come home and you're going to cook. But then you're like, oh my gosh, I have to wash all of this and chop all of this. I've got to boil that. I've got to prep this. I've got to do that. Before you know it, you call and order a pizza. You've spent $150 at the grocery store, but you have to order something for dinner because this is just ingredients. None of it's actually meals yet, right? So do yourself a favor. Prep some items ahead of time. I'm not saying spend hours prepping everything, but If you go to the grocery today and you come home, maybe you got some baked potatoes, bake all of them now. Bake them today. It's okay. If you're going to heat up the oven, cook a bunch of them. Maybe tomorrow morning you're boiling some eggs. Boil all of them. That way you have hard-boiled eggs for the week. Do little bits of prep with these ingredients so that you can make foods and make meals out of them as you go without being totally overwhelmed. You know, vegetables are delicious and yummy, but they require being washed and chopped. And on the flip side, you guys, if you are really busy, there are, especially at like Kroger's and Whole Foods and things like that now, there are sections where you're going to find, yes, it's a little bit more money, but you're going to find the vegetables already washed and already chopped and already ready to go. It's a time saver. And I know while it's like, you know, I struggle, oh my gosh, it's like $2 more, but if I spend $2 more at the store buying the vegetables that are prepped and ready to go so when I get home I can actually cook them and eat them versus bringing them home and being overwhelmed and ordering a pizza, that's probably what, 14, 16 bucks for a pizza. I'm better off to spend the extra $2 to get the pre-done vegetables. So remember, you're worth that extra money. Remember, in the long run, that extra couple bucks is going to go towards your health. It's for the better. So, you know, should you do it all the time? No. You know, if you start doing these little preps before, you know, like 30 minutes of prepping on a Tuesday and a little bit like an hour on a Wednesday, and it slowly but surely builds up and you get your kitchen stocked and ready to go, you won't need to. But early on, if you need to, go for it. Don't question your value of having good, healthy food. Okay, so why on earth would we go through all of this? Why would we do all this grocery shopping? Why would we read all these labels? Why would we do all this chopping and washing and the cooking? And the cooking, to me, the cooking is the hard part. Like, it's maybe not hard to actually do the cooking, but, you know, you got to have stuff prepped and ready, and you got to cook it, and then you got to clean it. So why would you go through all of that? Well, in all of these videos that we've done so far on this Tribe page, I've talked a lot about a happy, healthy body. So everything I'm going to tell you Whole Foods does for you leads to a happy, healthy body. So whole food, you know, eating whole and real food is nutrient dense. That will create a happy, healthy body. Whole foods are, well, they're going to cause less inflammation, right? You don't have preservatives and fillers and all that jazz going through your body causing chaos. Less inflammation leads to a happy, healthy body. Real whole foods, non-processed, non-prepackaged, have way less added sugar and sodium to them, thus equaling a happy, healthy body. So what do I mean by that? What is a happy, healthy body? It's a body that sleeps good. It's a body that has tons of energy. It's a body that has less aches and discomforts. It's a body that can think clearly. It's a body that just has a natural, I don't want to say energy again, but like a natural feeling about it. It's that person who just has that glow because they're filling their body with the right stuff. So there are days when I'm chopping and cooking and I'm like, I don't want to do this today. But I do want to be happy and I do want to be healthy from the inside out. So regardless of any kind of body composition, whether I want to be stronger, faster, leaner, any of that stuff, Whole Foods will get you to that place quicker and more efficiently because it's true food. Go to the way back days. I don't care who or what you believe in. You were put on earth. All this stuff was put on earth with you for a reason. You don't see a deer out in the woods looking for a store for a quick fix, right? That animal knows what it can and can't eat. It knows what's been put here to eat. So remember, you know what you're meant to eat. You know what is a food and you know what is a convenient, quick fix food-like product. And I'm not saying that you're not going to have those times in your life. You're obviously going to have those times in your life. But if you can have less convenient, quick food and more real whole food, your body will reward you with performing better, thinking better, feeling better, and all that jazz. So again, this is just some tips on how to get started switching over to Whole Foods. Like I said, depending on the comments or questions that I get based on this video, we can dive into this deeper. You know, oh, I know, earlier on I mentioned there's a thing called Whole30. So that's a 30-day challenge where you eat nothing but whole foods, and it's very strict. let me explain to you what Whole30 is about. A lot of people mistakenly use the Whole30 challenge to lose weight. You may very possibly lose body fat or weight on when you're doing Whole30, because you're going to be reducing sugar, you're going to be reducing inflammation and all that jazz. What Whole30 really is a anti-inflammatory meal plan for 30 days. So what you're doing is pulling out all of the foods that are proven to cause inflammation in the body for 30 solid days to help bring your body down to a calm, functioning level. After the 30 days, you are supposed to, one at a time, only one at a time, bring a certain type of food back. So for example, dairy is not part of the Whole30 because dairy is well known to cause inflammation in the human body. So cheese, milk, ice cream, all that stuff obviously is gone. Legumes, beans, that is another item that is known to cause inflammation in the body. So that's another thing that's going to be gone. Artificial sweeteners, those are going to be gone. There's so many things that you're going to take out. So if you come back at the end of 30 days and you bring it all back in, you're going to feel like junk, but you're not going to know why. That's why at the end of 30 days, you should bring back one thing. So let's say at the end of 30 days, I decide to bring dairy back in my diet. I'm going to eat some dairy, see how I feel. Eat some dairy, see how I feel. Now, I may notice, me personally, I would notice it right away. My body does not like dairy, but you may notice that it's fine. You may notice that it's not. If everything goes smooth, then you can pick something else to bring back in. So for example, artificial sweeteners. Again, my own personal body, if I bring that back in and I have, more than like a piece of sugar-free gum or something a day, I'll get a massive headache from it. I know my body doesn't like it. So again, Whole30 is awesome to learn about your body. I do encourage it. I think it's a great program, if you will. But just know it's not for weight loss. It is to reduce inflammation in your body and then to experimentally bring back in things that could have been causing inflammation. Because a lot of times, if you've been eating 4 or 5 things that cause inflammation, it's really hard to tell which thing it is that's causing it or which one causes more. Or your body may just be flat out inflamed, and so you don't even now know what does and doesn't cause it. So that's really what Whole30 does. Some people will refer to the Whole Foods movement as like a paleo thing. I have my thoughts on that as well, but when somebody sends me a recipe for a paleo blueberry muffin, I laugh and say, hey, no caveman ever had a muffin. So, don't read too much into it. Don't put too much eggs in one basket with a meal plan or a system or a way of eating. Just kind of experiment. But if you stick with the whole food, the real food, it's really not an experiment. It's what we were meant to eat. So I think you'll notice right away that you're feeling better. You're going to have better energy. You're going to sleep better because, again, you're getting nutrition. So anyway, I've rambled on and on. Hopefully you got some tips and tricks out of this to help you get started going in that right direction. Start reading those labels. Start shopping that perimeter. Start sharpening your knives and get in the kitchen and get some work done. So let me know how you like this, if you want to know more about it or what other topics you guys want to talk about. So I hope you have a great Tuesday. Bye.